Welcome back to Community Balance, and I'm going to introduce our guests again. Mark Isaac Potter, who is a Zen master, famous poet, and Dave Coker Hook, who is also a producer at KMBT, a fine singer, and
friend of the poet.
And a friend of the poet.
That's what I've heard.
So anyway, this is part 2. And Mark, we want to hear some more of your poetry.
All
but
right.
just to remind the audience that one of the questions that I want to ask you again is that how do these poems form in your mind?
They just show up. I mean, they just come in as thoughts, like if you were going to have a birthday party and you were thinking about planning the birthday party. They just show up. And I usually get a few lines. Maybe I get more. Usually if I can get somewhere to write it down, then I'll get more. And then my job usually is to write down the rough draft and then let it sit like 3 or 4 days, a week, and then go back and use and employ poetic talent to make it something that's got the right economy of line, has the right pauses, has an element of surprise, all that stuff.
Do you feel that your Zen background has a lot to do with your poetry?
It does, although I started writing the poetry when I was 15, and I didn't start Zen until 1996, so I was writing for decades before I started Zen, but they do have a relationship with each other. Yeah.
You just answered a question that I had, Mark, because I was going to ask you. You said earlier in the last show that you had started writing when years ago when you were 15, and I was curious, in that writing, was it poetry writing? Was it more prose writing? Was it a combination of the two? How did you...
It really was poetry, and I went back and read a poem that I wrote in my 20s after I'd been writing for 5 or 6 years. And it was such a different style that I had to look and see if it was really something I had written. It was very dense, very like Wallace Stevens-ish. It was very oblique and opaque, and you couldn't get a hold of anything in it. There wasn't anything physical mentioned. It was all like shadows and lights and curtains, and I think it was a good poem, but it just, the style was so vastly different, and I had to sit down and say, well, are you or are you not glad you chose to write in a different way? Because I remember discovering William Carlos Williams and saying, okay, I want to write in a way that if I gave a poetry reading, people would understand it. So now I write about stuff like frying pans and cars and, cockroaches and things that people can relate to, rather than, the wisp of beauty is leaning against all time, or something.
But you could
what does
do
it
that.
mean? Yeah, I did it, but
Yeah.
it's just not my.
Yeah.
I wonder what value it had. I'm sure it's fine for some people, but.
After you write your poem, how do you feel?
Usually with my hands. No, let's see. I just have to let them sit. I usually let each piece has a version number on it, usually. And usually the version numbers go up to 3, 4, 5, 6, 12. So I keep looking at them and redoing them, and I keep version numbers on them so I can tell which version it is. And so someone famous, John Ciardi or someone once said, a poem's really never finished, we just abandon it. I think that's really true, because they could always be better, but you can't spend all your life on one poem. So, yeah, but I do go back a lot, and most of these manuscripts take 4 or 5 years to create.
No kidding.
Because you write them all in a rough draft. You do the second writing, and then and And then you have to figure out after you do all that, well, what order are they going to go in, or which ones don't really fit, and all that stuff. So
Do you work on more than one manuscript at the same time?
yes, usually 2 or 3, but they usually wind up being short. Well, they seem short until I put them together, and then I realize, okay, we got 300 pages here. What are we going to do? And then I remember, well, I always throw away half of it anyway, so it'll work out. And that's what happened with this one. It was 200 or 300 pages, and now it's like 150.
You want to read us one?
Sure.
Okay.
This one's kind of fun because some of it's fictional, but most of it really happened, and it's just fun. So, the many advantages of washing your clothes in the sink. First of all, surprisingly, it is much more difficult for the rats to climb up through the walls into the second floor than it is for them to chew their way into the washing machine downstairs while it is running and steal your pajamas. I know, huh? I would have thought that was the other way around. Secondly, washing one's clothes in the sink saves you from running up and down the stairs with basket upon basket of smelly, dirty, and later sweet and clean clothing. Third most, washing them in the sink upstairs is cheaper than paying for it downstairs. Fourthly, if you do a few clothes each evening, you're more likely to keep up with all the laundry, rather than letting it pile up until the weekend and then not getting to it because you went over to Louis to watch the game. By the way, a baby walrus is called a cub or a pup. The 2 pups in my gravel driveway appear, in my opinion, to be lost. This is not Alaska, I said to them firmly, after I was forced, not yet near the end of the football season, to take my clothing downstairs to the coin laundry and start the arduous job of catching up. Try to catch up, that is, before I have to go off to my lady friend's parents' house for Thanksgiving. She came over one afternoon and put her foot down. She could not figure out, after 5 years of dating, why was I always wearing something brand new? And of course, it was because I had resorted to buying new clothes every week instead of washing the dirty ones. The walrus cubs were not taking the hint. Namely, that I would rather they go on their way. Each had the odd habit of scratching the other in that exact spot where someday they would have the characteristic walrus mustache. Or did they already have their mustaches since birth? Or did they? They moved their feet nervously in the gravel. I had not seen a mother walrus, well, ever really. Can you imagine my concern for these cute little creatures? This is not Alaska, I repeated. You have come too far south. Seeing that this would not be over soon, I started separating the white clothes from the clothing with colors. Someone said once, you're supposed to do that. Making 2 nice, neat, separate piles there in the gravel driveway.
Oh, that's darling.
That's fun.
That is really, I really could relate to that.
I like putting animals in
No,
poems.
but that, I mean, what do you think, Dave?
It's like you say, you can relate to it. It's fun. It
Yeah,
was
you can-
does this fit, this particular poem in the series
Yeah,
that you've got here, is it fit into that surrealism, absurdism model?
Yeah, because what are the chances
Yeah.
of having walrus cubs in your driveway?
Yeah.
You know, really. Think about
you're
it.
not in Alaska, I guess
Not going to
not.
happen. The other thing, too, and I was surprised about this, I listen to a lot of poetry being read on YouTube, And there's a famous writing school in Iowa, University of Iowa. One of the professors there, I regrettably can't remember her name, said that what she's teaching for the last couple of years is poems that have annotated sections like footnotes, etc. Now, I had never heard of this person. I don't go to writers' conferences, but over the last few years, I've been much more likely to go on the internet and look for something interesting, put it in the poem, and then put the footnotes of where I found it. So a lot of these poems have like a whole page of footnotes at the end.
Oh, cool.
And apparently this is something that's going on. You would like me to do what?
Well, I think your microphone has fallen.
Uh-huh. Again for the third time? Now
Yes.
what do we do?
Well, find
now
it.
we're going to have
Put
fun.
it
Find
back.
it
This is called
Jeez.
live TV.
Yes.
See, there you go.
and do what?
And-
Clip it on here unceremoniously? Let me do this right. How about like this? Let's do it this way. This is really good. You can always count on this on the Mark Potter Show.
There you go.
Let's do it that way.
That's
All right.
good.
Now you're back with us.
So yeah, so that's that. I was surprised, but it's apparently something that's going on in other parts of the writing world as well. This idea of having footnotes in a poem.
How often do you write?
It goes in spurts. When I used to sit down and write just like for months. I would just stay in the house and write. And sometimes those were nonfiction pieces. Like I cranked out a manuscript of a book in, 4 or 5 months once or less. I don't know. But, maybe every day, but it really goes in spurts. Mm-hmm. And it depends on the circumstances of my life at the time and all that. But
That causes a question in my mind, because I know that some artists, writers or painters or whatever, find there's a particular time in their day. I don't know if it's the life cycle
Yeah, I've
rhythms
heard
or
that.
whatever,
Yeah.
that it just this works for me. It works for me to do this from 4 a.m. to 5:30 in the
Yeah.
morning. Is there anything like that for you, or is it
There's
just
nothing like that for me. It's like there isn't any time, as we say in Zen. There's no time. There's just right now, and there's not even the present. There's just literally now. And so whenever it happens, it happens. It could be 3 in the morning. I could be sound asleep. I could be in the store picking up tissues off the grocery store floor because somebody dropped them. I just never know. There's no correlation between. I don't know why.
Let's have another one.
All right then. Jolly good. Pip pip and all that rot. This poem was important to me because I've been married a couple times, but I've never had children. When I wrote this poem, it was like a little moment. I had daughters for just a little moment, and it felt very beautiful. So that's what this is about. For the love of my daughters, nothing can be said. The gregarious pelicans, possibly from any part of the world, will have no sense of whether or not thin veiled curtains go well with the sitting room furniture. Are these Louis XIV chairs? Did Joan of Arc inspire this divan? The maid is doing the dishes, but why? Little Martha is supposed to be home from boarding school on the afternoon train. Betsy is laboring at her ballet practice yet again. I try to reward them without cutting them an undue amount of slack or gratitude for their existence. To say that their darling mother died in a terrible car accident is a bold-faced lie, and one I hope never to reveal otherwise. The bullets, too many bullets. How can you tell a child something like that? And my own mother also died in a hail of gunfire. So you can see why I'm haunted by it all. The girls are protected as best I can protect them, and an inconspicuously armed gunman acts as our door person. a doorman who, obviously, we do not need in order to open the heavy door. The pelicans, as I said earlier, I hope I said it, do care, and this worries me greatly. They fly around the acreage looking for animals that really only a hawk would want to eat. Small animals, other birds, even turtles. I will only let the children ride in the Bentley because it is the most bulletproof. Contrary to popular belief, discussed at length at a charity ball to which I no longer give, Christmas at our house is a wonderful affair. It is carried on in the following manner. The house staff all get presents, and Martha and Betsy, did I say her name was otherwise? I mean earlier, did I say that Betsy's name was something else earlier? Anyway, the house staff is opening their gifts. As the house staff is opening their gifts, the children sit, wonderfully dressed, and watch. Later, they and I go into the panic room, and we have our own darling holiday. And this is the footnotes for that.
You know, what I've noticed, and this is indeed a compliment, your writing is very vivid.
Thanks so much.
Yes, I think that's a good way of putting it.
There's such subtle humor. It is subtle.
Okay.
And I love about the names.
Okay.
How you say that. How did that come to you to do that?
I was just glad it showed up. I mean, I have never had children, like I said, and I've never wanted children. Mm-hmm. But I kind of wished I'd wanted children. Mm-hmm. So it was a nice way to have children for a few minutes without having mm-hmm. children. Mm-hmm. All those tuition bills.
No, the other thing, you had talked earlier, Mark, about how you'll write. There will be a draft, and you'll work it, and you'll rework it, and you'll work it again. And I hadn't thought about that until you were reading this poem, but it really shows in that dedication to striving for perfection in the wording, because the phrasing of these things that you've been reading, the poems, is actually very good. It's not, it doesn't knock you over and cause you to try to figure out what's going on. You're not using language that is unfamiliar. You're careful to present the idea that you're communicating with wording and phrasing that actually, I think, we can relate to or we can understand, and that's not always the case in things that I've read, okay. Whether it's prose or poetry.
Okay.
So that was a compliment, by the way.
Yeah,
you can accept that.
I think you might be right. I think that there was probably complimentary in nature.
Do you wear special clothes?
Do I wear special clothes?
When you write?
Underwear?
No.
Mormon underwear?
No, let me tell you. Years ago, I had this very beautiful young lady, very weird lady, which was great because I like to have weird people.
Yeah.
I like to interview them. And she looked very straight. She had a hat on. She was very prim and proper. So we started talking about her poetry. And she said she writes her poetry completely nude.
Where does she live?
I mean, she was so serious about it, too.
Yeah.
And she read some of it. I didn't enjoy it as much as yours.
Okay.
Maybe if it's been a naked man, you know. No,
Could
anyway.
be.
So do another one.
All right. So this one I like because the title tells you a lot if you remember the title while I'm reading. It's called A Trail of Giving. Since that day, you were riding your pony around in the yard, yelling, "Tom Mix, Tom Mix!" To which your bookish friend Francine said, "Who is Tom Mix?" "Franny," you said, "you read more than me." Tom Mix is the guy who invented instant coffee and then delivered it door to door, which was the beginning of the Pony Express. Francine's father pulled up in his new 1956 Edsel. Francine, looking through her black-rimmed glasses, wanted to tell the Pony Rider that she loved her. But her father's Edsel was too daunting to even completely think such a thought. Not completely. Years later, Francine would search in every store for a Tom Mix doll for her grandson Danny, but she found none. The closest she ever got was a photograph of Ronald Reagan in a cowboy hat at an event in Portales, New Mexico, home of Eastern New Mexico State. Years later, Danny would search in vain for that same picture of Reagan, both online and with the help of his local reference librarian. Everywhere else, he could not find one. The best he could do was a picture of Azealia Banks, dressed up in what appears to be a cowgirl hat and possibly, but only possibly, other artifacts of a cowgirl outfit as well at an awards affair. Daniel, not knowing what he was doing, and the relentless pecking of whooping cranes at the tall hall window, Danny printed out the picture of Azealia Banks and put it in an envelope with a gift card for his daughter on her 11th birthday. There's more going on there than I'm telling. Azealia Banks has a very dirty mouth. She's a good singer,
really?
but you wouldn't give something about her to an 11-year-old.
Give us the name of that poem again.
Yeah.
A trail of giving.
Oh.
So everyone's trying to give the other person what they received, and it's never quite what they thought they were going to be able to give.
Right. Got it. Cool.
Mark, what do you see yourself doing in 10 years from now?
Ay, caramba. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe writing and hoping nobody finds out I'm writing. Yeah, I'm not
And
sure.
Dave, what about you?
In 10 years, playing with the grandchildren.
There we go.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. And Mark, you're so, you have such a fertile mind.
Okay.
You don't, okay, what do you see yourself doing in 5 years?
I don't know. Hopefully the same things, producing TV and writing. I'd like to find a way to get my work out there better without becoming a whore to the literary movement. This attend a conference, pay a bunch of money, sleep with the teacher, all that stuff that people do to get published. But I don't see it happening. I used to put out 20 and 30 submissions at a time, and I've had 3 things published, I think, in my lifetime. So,
Yeah, but that's a lot because think of them trillions
yeah.
of books and everything, especially writing and art. Do you have one more for the road?
Yeah, we don't have a lot of time.
No.
I just think we should do something short. And what is short?
Well, this has been a hoot.
What did you say, honey? This
A
has been a
hoot.
hoot?
It's a hoot.
So you're an
I
owl.
love interviewing Mark.
You
Just
do, huh? All right. Oh, this one doesn't have the times on it. I used to have one with times on it.
Oh, I've got a hot question.
Okay.
I mean,
We'll just go to the
this is
question.
probably the worst question in all the years.
Good.
Oh, good.
Could you make one up now?
Sure.
Oh,
yeah, I
goody.
like that
Don't
idea.
read it.
You want me
Oh,
to say?
yeah, yeah.
You have anything in
Yeah.
mind or not?
No.
Do a-
Just as
just
a
an ad-lib.
conclusion to this
The splash
fantastic
of
show.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Why did that knife want to marry that bowl? I'm not going to be the one that officiates. But if it was a bowl and a fork, I would officiate.
The end.
Very good. No, but you could just do that.
Yeah. But it has to have some. I mean, I think these actually have some sense. Most people who look at them and hear them go, "Well, that doesn't have any sense." But I think making it up on the spur of the moment and writing it down and editing it and giving it the right, pitch and meter and all that stuff, I think is different than just making them up, frankly. But I could be wrong.
Yeah. My last question. What would you like to be remembered for? I don't know if that's correct English.
That works.
Being someone who gave back. I'm on disability and I'm embarrassed by being on disability, so I try to give back to the community by being a volunteer at KMPT and doing projects for the homeless, which we didn't talk a lot about, but we've talked about it before. So I hope I'm doing my part in society.
Well, I think that's wonderful. And I really, I feel very, very blessed to know you. And Dave, I do you too. But,
But he's the
Mark
star of the
is
night.
the star
Ditto.
right here.
Yeah.
And no, I
like
just
you too.
think you're amazing. I really do. And I just hope I can interview you again next time. I really do.
probably
I
happen. Who knows?
I just love it. And Dave, I wish you the very best.
Thank you, Suzanne, and to you as well.
Thank you. Thank you. I love what I do too. And of course, we are all volunteers.
Yep.
And we don't get paid. Little do they know, we pay them whatever we could, but we're not going to tell them that, just to do it.
Yeah.
But I think we have to be hams, kind
Yep.
of full of ourselves. I hate to say that, but I don't think Mark is. I don't think you're full of yourself. I really don't. Anyway, I want to thank our lovely audience here.
Thank you, audience.
I hope you all
Thank you,
enjoyed it.
audience.
Thank
love
you for
you.
being
Let's
here.
give Mark another round of applause for his great poetry.
Yeah. And I want to thank our crew. We couldn't do this without our crew. And it's such a fun experience. I invite all of you, anybody that would be interested in this. It's just the best. It really is. And of course, I want to thank our audience for watching. And I can't wait to see you next time. Really. Thank you. Mwah, mwah.
Mwah, mwah.
Yeah. Excellent.
Thank you,
Yeah.
That's you.
Yeah.